Well, I think some of this, obviously the statement, sometimes it's made based on like a misperception, or even it's not based on truth. Let's say, for example, the statement about Xinjiang, about labor issue. Talk if you talk to the Chinese people on the street, you say there's a forced labor in China. People probably will laugh at this suggestion at all. I mean, there's no such a thing. And I think there's a need a cool-headed review of the relationship and of those issues. And I think the Chinese side understand is under the U.S. pressure, and somehow the statements, in particular the one from the G7 summit, is more like a compromise version. The U.S. did not fully get what it wanted. Otherwise the language would be much harsher, and China would be much more condemned in the statement. But I think that Beijing also understands that there's a common concern between Washington and the European partners. That is, China is rising rapidly. During the process, it's understandable there are some concerns, there are some anxieties. But the thing is, probably the both sides should look at more cooperation, because right now the challenge is we are facing as the entire world is like the pandemic control, economic recovery, climate change. Is not about fighting each other. It's not about preserving to be the number one or number two countries in this world. It's a bit petty, narrow-minded, let's say.
Well, you're right. We did hear from Angela Merkel just calling for more balance. A moment ago, we heard China's reaction primarily from the embassy in the UK. What is Beijing's position, though? Is there concern? Should they be concerned about what was coming out of these two summits?
Well, there is a concern, but I wouldn't go. I would say I wouldn't. I would say there should be no overreaction to that, because if you look at the issue, basically there are existing problems, existing issues, and Washington is trying to woo the support of the European partners, so to create more pressure on the Chinese side. But if you look at the reaction from the European side, it's not exactly the same as Washington, because obviously other G7 countries, they don't necessarily agree with Washington that basically Washington is to launch another, I would say, Cold War version 2.0 against China. For other countries, they don't see the need. As I said, what challenges the world is not China right now. Yes, there are challenges with the rise of China, but it's not created by China. The relationship over there. So there are some problems. They need to work together. China is not the enemy. China is not challenging the U.S. Is not trying to replace the U.S. China is not a challenge to European countries. They have differences over the value issues, so-called, like human rights, freedom. They can talk to each other. Culturally they are different. So that's the reality. And also we should respect the reality. And also I would challenge the vision of, the imagination of Western leaders. You can say, somehow they would say, as long as it's a Western style democracy, it must be good. It must be presented in a positive sense. They are not able to think beyond democracy. They are still living or trapped in the world of the end of history mentality, that democracy is the ultimate end of mankind. They can't imagine a better version of political system that could probably better organize their society, better organize a nation. As demonstrated in this fight against the pandemic, China actually is one of the best, if not the best, in terms of controlling the pandemic, in terms of economic recovery. I think people should also respect the fact here.